have with us today Nouman Abdul Majid, who is an economist, finance advisor, as well as geopolitical analyst. So, welcome, Nouman. This is the age of corridors, it seems. China had launched its corridor over 10 years ago. That was the Belt and Road Initiative. Initially, it was One Belt, One Road, but then it transformed into Belt and Road Initiative, under which China has expanded its footprint across the Asian and African continents. In 2020, we saw the Abraham Accords when Donald Trump was the president, and apparently the objective was to connect Israel with all the Muslim countries. Now, the Israeli tourism minister, Haim Katz, recently concluded a visit to Saudi Arabia, the first ever official delegation. And that is ice-breaking as well as a landmark visit. And the preamble to this is obviously the Abraham Accords, under which America is trying to connect Saudi Arabia with Israel because Israel is so favorite with the United States. Early September, there was a G20 summit in New Delhi, and there the India-Middle East corridor was announced, which appeared like a response to China's Belt and Road Initiative. Now, to discuss this, the importance of corridors. What is a corridor and why is it important for all these countries in a situation in which they're already connected through bilateral trade? So what additional impetus does a corridor give to the bilateral or multilateral trade? So the basic question is why we have entered into this age of corridors, a sort of competition between the two blocs, so to say. So what's the importance of these corridors? What do they signify?
Mr. Imtiaz, if you look at the politics of last 200 centuries, basically, maybe more, then the shipping routes were playing the most central part across all the global geopolitics. Now, China basically changed this initiative 10 years ago when it launched the BRI. BRI basically is a combination of ports, trade routes, bridges, and a lot of other things basically which interconnect the world. So the whole concept of interconnectivity and the global trade was redefined by the Chinese. And as you know that the BRI has many aspects to it. There is a Central Asian corridor, there's an Indo-China corridor, and of course the most important one on this one, especially from our perspective, is the CPEC, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. The CPEC is important from two perspectives. Number one, because it's the only corridor basically which passes through the South Asia, and probably this is the only corridor which connects or which has the closest proximity to the Middle East as well. What we saw during last 10 years as well, that China also started investing heavily in the Duqm port of Oman. They were creating a special economic zone, etc., etc. And on top of it, we have the Gwadar port and the Gwadar free zone, which was actually envisaged. And now Chinese are also investing heavily in the Karachi port. So if we see the whole Indian Ocean regime, the periphery, Chinese are creating a series of ports and networks and everything. Similarly, we saw Chinese investments in Sri Lanka. We can see the similar things in Indochina as well. So the whole idea is basically China is securing the trade routes from Indochina to South Asia via Sri Lanka and Pakistan up to the Middle East. Basically, this was a long felt, I would say, strategic threat. And the biggest problem or the biggest challenge to this thing, what we call the chip war. The chip war is basically what America was trying to say, that, we will not let China lead in technology. But that's a lot of what they call strategic exports to China are being blocked. But on top of it, and as we all know that America has chosen India as their preferred and the strategic trading and strategic partner in the South Asia as well. So there was also always a need basically how to counter the BRI. So now a new trade route has been announced by the Indians, which will basically connect the India, Middle East via UAE and Saudi Arabia, all the way up to the Europe and North America. But the real surprise came afterwards when Turkey announced that any trade route basically which bypasses Turkey will not be acceptable to this important NATO country. Similarly, Iraq had started doing the a lot of investment in its trade routes. The idea was basically to connect Iraq through Central Asia and Turkey to Middle East and Europe. So now and as soon as the Turkey announced, the Qatar also came in. So basically now a new alternative to this South Asia. The previous one is the CPEC was the China, South Asia, Europe. But then now the new route which is emerging basically is the South Asia, Middle East, and Western countries, the Europe and North America. So basically what our Turkey is saying, there'll be a new route which connects the Middle East, Turkey, Europe, and North America. So I think this becomes the game of corridors. The game of corridors become very important. And it seems that if all these corridors start happening, then the central region of all this is going to be the Middle East, because all these corridors are going to pass through the Middle East. In any case, Middle East is going through a boom. So the importance of Middle East and Turkey and the entire region becomes very important.
Yeah, that's
And
what
I
I
think
wanted to. That's what I wanted to bring in when President Xi met with Mohammed bin Salman and many other leaders at the Arab Summit. So that did that give a further impetus, further expansion, as so to say, to the BRI, and that was the real big dividend that China got through these accords with Saudi Arabia as well as other Muslim countries.
You see, Saudi, if you look at all these corridors, then the central country among all these corridors is Saudi Arabia. And of course, China is an important one. But in between China and Saudi Arabia lies Pakistan. Of course, Pakistan has not been able to capitalize upon this opportunity as much as it should have. But we cannot at all undermine the significance of this China-Pakistan economic corridor, because of it, despite all the challenges of BRI, the most advanced corridor, whatever investment has happened in terms of conceptually, logistically, financially, and everything, then CPEC and a couple of other this is the most important corridor. And I think that if we are connecting the whole idea is basically, if you look at the macro picture, either the corridors passes via China, South Asia to Europe and America, or it's Middle East, Europe, America, or South Asia, Middle East, America. Although these are different combination of corridors which are being explored. So I think that if you look at the new emerging realities, that eventually we can end up having basically a corridor which starts from China, comes to South Asia, then goes to Middle East and Turkey, Europe, and North America. It becomes a global sort of a corridor. Okay, now, despite all our problems and political instabilities and everything, the investments which have already gone into CPEC, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, it becomes a very central piece, because the only common factor in South Asia which connects the Middle East and China is Pakistan. Okay, yes, Indians have got very good relationship with the Middle Eastern people, Middle Eastern countries now, but Indians are not at good terms with the China. But Pakistan is one country which has got good relationship with the Middle East, whether it's Saudi Arabia, UAE, or Qatar. Similarly, we have got excellent relationship with the Turkey, as well as we have got excellent relationships, with the Chinese. So basically, Pakistan becomes very central. Now, as we know that Pakistan has lost a lot of opportunities of this sort of significance, but still, I believe that this gives, by virtue of this new trade route corridor thing, I think that gives another opportunity to Pakistan for enhancing its geopolitical importance and mobilize the much needed investment. We are talking about the $25 to $70 billion sort of investment. So this new economic corridor thing can basically bring a lot of money into Pakistan.
So are you saying that Pakistan is once again at the center because of its political diplomatic proximity to China as well as to Saudi Arabia, and that if these three countries join hands, there could be huge dividends for both Saudi Arabia as well as Pakistan?
You're right. Actually, the reason is basically the reason I'm saying is the Turkish factor as well. Because if there is a corridor which is basically connecting Saudi Arabia and Turkey, and we know that Pakistan and Turkey have very good relations, very close relations, and so it's a natural extension. It's a natural extension, Of course, unless we botch up really, which I doubt that we will not this time. Hopefully, we will not botch up this time. We have messed up a lot of opportunities earlier as well, but due to the Turkish factor and the GCC factor, and then of course going all the way up to China, then within South Asia, due to our geostrategic thing, our geographical positioning, and of course the military capacity, and of course the size of the market and everything. So Pakistan is a natural ally of this Middle East, Turkey, China corridor, definitely it's not going to pass through India if it's the Chinese one. And already so much investment has been made. Because, if it was at an early stage, the way I look at it, when we talk about all these corridors, that the CPEC is one of the most advanced stage corridors, despite all the problems. Okay. We have, there have been delays and disagreements and financial issues and repatriation
But there's
issues.
also a lot on ground already.
But there's a lot on the ground. So it is right time that we capitalize upon it. Yes, we and the Chinese might have to do some rethinking. We will have to onboard. As you know, another interesting fact is, as we know that during last 10 years, we have seen an interest by a lot of countries, the Russians and probably some other countries as well, some Middle Eastern country as well. They wanted to somehow connect to the CPEC and the economic corridor. But what was happening that, there was some resistance that we should not be letting some of the companies and institutions which are part of the CPEC to be co-owned by other countries. I think that's going to change now. When we go for an expansion model, some of the projects and country and initiatives which are falling under CPEC, we will have to invite some more investment from Gulf countries. So Pakistan is very desperately looking at the FDI scenario, FDI thing right now. So what could be a better opportunity than that?
Yeah, absolutely correct. I mean, Pakistan has had a lot of opportunities. It has even more opportunities staring it in the face in the form of all these corridors. But one thing is very clear, that CPEC that began under the Belt and Road Initiative was the forerunner of all the corridors that have emerged. And perhaps it is still the best placed bet for Pakistan and for other countries, including Saudi Arabia, because of the connectivity, because of the context and the groundwork that has already happened. And it looks like there will be that it looks like that the best chance for the BRI success or projects under BRI is China's unique system, that is single party. The Communist Party of China rules, the Politburo decides, and all the decisions trickle down. And therein lies probably the potential success of this compared to all of the corridors, including the India-Middle East, because then it involves so many other countries, whereas the Chinese leadership has to take just one decision and it is implemented. And that's why probably you find the Chinese footprint all over the African and Asian continent. So thank you very much, Nouman, for this exciting conversation. We hope to continue this in the coming months and years as the conversation on corridors intensifies. Thank you.